Welcome back to another episode of the Identity Woman podcast. I am your host, Chantelle Branch, and it's 2024. It is a new year, it is a new beginning, and I want to talk about the way that we love. And when I say we, I'm talking about mothers and daughters. This is a new season, a new year, another opportunity, but it's a new opportunity for you and your mother to love each other better. And I have an amazing guest today, professional counselor Danielle Portis. She is the owner of Rose Gold Crowns. Hey Danielle, what's up?
Hi, thank you for having me.
You are welcome. I'm excited. I'm so excited. I'm excited because it's a new year. It's 2024 and there are so many things in store for us. And I wanted to just kick this year off with therapy. No, this is not therapy. This is
a therapeutic conversation.
There we go. See, she has all the language for us. And I wanted to just talk about the way that we love, and I want to help mothers and daughters who have been struggling for years. And daughters want to have that relationship with their mothers, but they're struggling. And there's some barriers and some boundaries that have to be made known on both sides in order to, I believe, for it to work. But even if you just let your mom know that, hey, you can't call me after 6 on Tuesdays because I'm in the gym, and when I talk to you at 8 o'clock, you're yelling and you're angry with me because I didn't answer. Even if you say that to your mom and she just brushes it off and she keeps calling on Tuesdays after 6, and then she keeps yelling at you on Tuesdays after 8, I really want to help us with tips and steps, or how do we get started in the conversations to rebuild the foundation and the cracks that have happened with so many mothers and daughters.
Well, first, even so what you just said, I think that's giving too much information.
Okay.
We don't have to have all of those conversations with our mothers. A lot of that needs to happen within ourselves. Specifically when you said telling our mothers we're in the gym after 6, don't call us, yelling after 8. In that case, it's more so, that you are in the gym after 6. You can just say, I go to the gym at 6 o'clock. So when mom calls, she knows, oh, I can look at the time, it's 6 o'clock, she's at the gym. Versus sometimes we answer the phone and say, I'm at the gym. Why you call? We can only control ourselves. And so it's really a matter of managing you better and realizing that boundaries are always for you. It's never for the other person. That's a rule.
Yes.
And we confuse, when I say we, I think that a lot of daughters who have this challenging relationship with their mom, we want a better mom.
Yes.
We want a more understanding mom.
Yes.
And think that we have to drill information into our mothers before they get it.
Wow. That speaks to me. It's so true. It's because I always say that boundaries protect my peace. Boundaries protect your peace. And I remember leaving and living in a shelter and living outside of that abusive relationship, but I was still being stalked. And I could either answer the phone 20 times or just let him keep calling and calling and calling until I just did a really hard boundary. I changed my number, and I stopped answering the phone because I'm not coming back, and I'm not telling you where I live, and that's it. And so I didn't want to keep taking myself through that emotional roller coaster because it's already a trigger every time that phone rang or I saw a text message and I'm like, oh my God. And you know, I'm away, I'm free, I'm living in a shelter, but I'm free. But that was a rule and a boundary that I put in place for me, and it has been in place for ever since. Changing my number, but it helped to alleviate that emotional stress. And so, exactly to what you were saying, that the boundary is for us, and I guess maybe helping us understand how do we recognize that? How do we even get to that place that we can recognize that where we are not reacting to whatever our mother just said to us or whatever our parent just said to us?
You feel it. One thing you just said was peace. You got to a place where you didn't want your peace disturbed, and you took power over that. You took authority over your peace. You feel when somebody makes you uncomfortable. You feel when you are... A trigger is an emotional response to something. So you feel different when something is bothering you to the point where you aren't your regular self anymore. And we have to decide as daughters to be more in control of how we feel and making sure that we don't let someone take us outside of our body, or we don't let someone take us to a place where we are uncomfortable and it's hard to regulate. Going back to the example you gave at the gym, can you really even enjoy the gym if you have to pause and argue? You know what I mean? It's like now it takes away your self-care.
Yes.
It takes away from that, and you feel the difference from a regular day when you didn't answer the phone. But just going back to the difference between boundaries and rules, a boundary is for you. It's saying what I do and don't do. I don't answer my phone when I'm at the gym. I don't answer my phone after 8 because some days, and this is something else that happens a lot. All days won't be bad. There won't always be an argument or mom yelling, and so maybe at 8 o'clock sometimes mom is calling with some good news or a joke or something like that, and then we long for that and forget mom also yells. And so when we are in a space where we're at peace and we're comfortable, we can't put ourselves back in that gamble. We roll a dice on us. Like, she might yell, but she might have a joke. Let me just see. And now you cross your own boundary. I hear a lot, like, they cross my boundary, they don't respect my boundaries. Nobody can disrespect your boundaries but you, because you never even have to communicate your boundaries for real.
That's deep. Wait a minute. She said you never have to communicate your boundaries for real.
You don't. It's for you. You decide, I don't answer the phone after 6. I don't answer the phone after 8. When I'm relaxing, after I drink my tea or my wine, I don't answer the phone because I don't know what could happen. A rule is you can't call me after 6. You can't call me at the gym. We can't control anybody. Rules are meant to be broken. So that's the difference. We can't say what someone else can and can't do. We can say it. They don't have to honor it. But the boundary is what we do about it.
Yeah.
What do we do once they call us? If they call us yelling, maybe a boundary is if I answer this phone and she's yelling, I say, you're yelling, I have to call you later. A boundary is how you handle the experience.
I like that. A boundary is how you handle the experience.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to use that. I picked that up.
And so sometimes we say, like, this is my boundary. But even just sharing your boundaries with people puts you in a vulnerable position, because now they know, oh, the gym is really important to her. Let me mess that up.
And it's true, because people do it all the time. And then it's the next step, or I have to reinforce my boundary. And that's that, it goes back to what you said, my I statement. I have to, so I want to hear from your perspective as a therapist. How do we, what's the next step? So they did cross our boundary, and you say, well, you don't necessarily have to clarify your boundary to that person. So how do we get them to comply?
You can't,
Oh,
unfortunately.
that sounds sad.
It is. It's sad, but the bright side of it is when people recognize that you won't bend, sometimes they'll stop trying. They may even go through like, oh, she changed, she different now. But the respect could come, but it also may not. But there has to be an acceptance, and there has to be an acceptance in that, and it's really like the grieving process. I don't think the grieving process gets enough flexibility and credit. We think about grieving people that have passed away or no longer with us, but sometimes we have to grieve relationships
Yes.
that are where the people are still living. We have to grieve experiences that we may no longer get to have. We may have to grieve friendships or even just situations as we knew them. And people may not want to admit this, but sometimes we have to grieve the toxic relationship that felt so comfortable. We have to learn to be loved and cared for, but you can't do that until you get to that level of acceptance, which is the last stage of grief, right?
Absolutely, because anger just rules grief.
Mm-hmm.
It rules it. And I think acceptance is a great place for forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and that's why it's the end of grief, because it's like the releasing of whatever it was that was holding you.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, especially when I'm experiencing different women in my community, and just experiencing different women that I've been around in my life, the relationship with the mom, grieving that.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I ran away from home at 14. I went and I lived with my dad, and then my mom, she passed when I was 22 years old. And I remember grieving before she passed. She was sick for a long time, and the year that she was passing, we knew, the doctor gave diagnosis. We knew that the window was now closing. And I just remember grieving, and I was now 7 months pregnant with my first daughter, and she would not see my daughter. She didn't, and because our relationship was so tumultuous, she didn't know I was pregnant until I was about 5.5 months.
Okay.
And that was only because it was first baby, so I really didn't show. But our relationship was tumultuous, so I didn't go around her a lot, even though she was sick, because we know that trauma and pain, because it's so weighted, so heavy. I had not gone to any counseling or any therapy. It was simply run away and just live away from her, which was better, because I went and I lived with my father, and so I was no longer experiencing the physical, emotional, psychological abuse, especially the verbal abuse. I wasn't experiencing that anymore. And so for me, as a young teenage girl, I was okay. That was okay for me. That was peace for me. So now I'm 22. I'm pregnant, and she doesn't find out till I'm 5.5 months, and she passes when I'm 7 months pregnant. So we had a very short window together before she died, but I was so grateful for that window. I intentionally, and I was going back into her life. And I was always in her life, but I went back intentionally once I got pregnant. I just didn't tell her I was pregnant.
Okay.
Because of what is going to be her reaction. It's going to be negative. She's going to be toxic. She's going to say something crazy, and she's going to hurt me. And I'm already vulnerable because I'm a young girl and I'm pregnant. And I have to figure out my way, and now I'm bringing a life to the earth. So I have to figure out her way too. And so I was just very intentional about going back into her life. I took care of her, like washed her body, clothed her,
Mhm.
did, and that was hard in the beginning because of what I experienced as a kid, and it just all started coming back. And I had
Did you feel like she deserved it?
that she deserved what?
Your care.
No,
Okay.
I didn't feel like she deserved it, but I felt like I made a pact with myself, and I said if I was her, and this baby inside of me had to take care of me,
Mhm.
I would want her to take care of me. And I believe that because I was doing it, and I did it with the heart to serve,
Mhm.
that it was going to return back to me, through this baby. And at that time, I had a choice. I could hurt her. I really could hurt her. I could drop her. She could slip out of my hands.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like anything. And it was because those thoughts did come into my mind. I have to be honest. They came into my mind, and I could hurt her. And I made the decision. I was like, I'm not going to do that.
Mhm.
I don't think Diary of a Mad Black Woman was out yet. But I chose not to because, for one, that's just not who I am. And I just didn't want nothing to come back on me. And I remember during that process grieving and getting to the point that even before she passed, I had accepted who she was.
Mhm.
And even within that last 5 months of her life, she did a change. My prayers of, not necessarily this great mom, but just my prayers that she would, that her heart would be changed. It began to show. And she began to be very nice. And she helped me plan my baby shower. She wanted to host it, and I wanted a name with the L. So she was like, well, give her a French name because your name is French, and my brother, his name is French. And she was like, give her a French name. And so she started coming up with names for L. And she wasn't on the internet. She just had cable TV and Pepsi, okay? And it was a wonderful experience that I got to share with her at the end of her life. And I was good to her. Even though she wasn't great to me for those 22 years, the last days of her life, I was good to her. And acceptance, because I had no heaviness in me when she died. Like, no bitterness, no anger, no resentment. I can't believe she did this to me. But it was just a weight, a release just lifted from me. And I believe that, like you were talking earlier, like if you could just get to acceptance, it's just, I remember you saying feeling, right? So it was a feeling that I experienced. And I believe that many people, many daughters have to go through some form of grieving with their mother, especially in a toxic relationship, to get to the point that they can now turn or pivot and go down a new lane.
Mm-hmm. And I think acceptance is at the beginning and the end.
Okay, share
And
more.
I say that because first you have to accept this is what it is.
Yes, true.
I think a common challenge is in toxic mother and daughter relationships, there's a lot of gaslighting, where the daughter has a version of the experience where the mother will try to convince them that this is normal. This is either how it's supposed to be, or that they're like they are because the daughter is the way they are. And that can be challenging to, as a daughter, to figure out, like, one, am I to blame? Is this is this okay? Is this healthy? Is this real? Is this private? Do I share this? How do I navigate this? And really acceptance and mindfulness go hand in hand, because mindfulness is just it's accepting the present moment as it is without judgment. And I think that's how you have to start the grieving process of this is exactly what it is. It doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean it is wrong. It just is.
Yes.
This is the reality of it. It doesn't need confirmation or validation from anyone. It doesn't need to be agreed upon by anyone. If this is how you feel and this is your personal experience that you are being abused in some way, or because it often in any abusive relationship, the abuser is rarely gonna say, yes, I'm abusing you, or yes,
Right.
this is not okay. It's not gonna be that easy, and so you have to be able to accept this is my reality without getting my abuser to agree that they're abusing me.
Yes.
And this is my reality that I have not only the right, but I deserve to heal from this. And it's important, like in your journey, you ran away and then you were able to come back as a woman to be intentional about that. But there was not only healing that took place in that, what was that, 7 years?
8.
8 years. Not only was that healing that took place, but also peaceful living.
Yes. Yes.
That wasn't, you saw different. You were able to feel different. And I think a lot of times daughters fear that separation, and they want that healing and the recovery to happen at the same time.
Mm.
And you have to be able to accept that this is what's happening. I have to heal for me, by me. This is my journey. And then I can try to ease back and be intentional after healing, if you want to, because you also don't have to.
True.
If you want to, but you can't. It's like if you are trying to mend a wounded relationship that has not healed, it's gonna be like ripping a Band-Aid every time they yell, every time they say something that's abusive. Their character is their character. And so trying to navigate that relationship without that separation and that acceptance of this is who they are is going to be challenging. And then at the end, it has to be acceptance of this is who I am.
Yes.
That's who they are, but now I know what peaceful living looks like. Now I know what my healing looks like and what my peace looks like, things that I like and love and how I like to be talked to and how I deserve. And so that's how you set boundaries. Because the boundary is like thinking about a fence around the yard. The boundary is how you keep your grass green.
Yes, I like that.
But until you make your grass green, how do you know what to protect and how to protect it?
That's good. Wait a minute, that's a word. So until you make your grass green in your fence, how do you know what to protect and what not to protect?
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Because if your grass is not green, that means it's unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably have some more growing to do. You need some fertilization, some water.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And you have to seek that outside of the person that's hurting you.
You absolutely do. That is a great segue into therapy. If you have not tried it, please do. It is amazing. Well, really, sometimes it hurts and you cry a little bit, but it's ripping the Band-Aid off and allowing the wound to get some air. And you get to do it in a safe space. And I know it's always, well, I don't know, how can I find the right one? Well, we have Rose Gold Crowns therapist Danielle Portis here to give us the How do we find the right therapist?
I always say it's like dating.
Oh, that's deep.
Yeah.
I never heard that one.
It's like dating. You don't have to marry a therapist right away just because you meet them and you book an appointment. It's really go into therapy knowing, and going back to the analogy we just used with the grass, knowing like why your grass isn't green. Go into searching for a therapist with knowing what it is that you want to work on and looking at their expertise and what it is that they do. So if you want support in
A
breakup or unhealthy relationships or family therapy, even with your mom, you wouldn't go to someone who specializes in like behavioral disorders or suicide,
I understand.
things like that. And so you really need to figure out, like, is this person able to serve me? Ask for a consultation. Most therapists give a consultation where, like, before you book an appointment or before you have to pay, they'll talk to you for about 15 minutes and just know what you're looking for and trust your own intuition. And we talked about, like, feeling in your body what feels good. Go with a therapist that feels good. And if it gets to a point where it no longer feels good, it's okay to break up with your therapist and get back into the dating world and find a new one. But really, like, there's therapy for black girls, Psychology Today, blackfemaletherapist.com, where there's a lot of directories where you can go look at different bios, look at different faces, and the specialties and the insurances that they take, or if they have sliding scale, all of those things are typically online or on their website where you can narrow down and make you a list. Don't just book an appointment because you're just looking for a therapist and this is the first person that came up in your community. Make you a list of at least 10 and do those consultations and make a solid choice for yourself.
Excellent. Well, now you have no excuse of why you haven't tried therapy. And so, as we get ready to wrap up, you talked earlier about healing and recovery. Can you explain to us what that really looks like, especially in the African American community, between mothers and daughters?
Yeah, so I speak in metaphors all the time. So I'm thinking about a surgery. When you come out of surgery, there's like a resting period. And you aren't expected to reintegrate into your normal living, your normal daily living right away. And that's what I mean by healing and recovery. There's a space where you need to go within and rest and figure out, like, what just happened to me? Where am I? What hurts about this? That's the healing portion. Like, what are these parts of the story? What are these parts of my story that I need to mend? What are these parts of my grass that I need to treat differently, so that I can have a full grain field? And then the recovery is after I've set my boundaries and I know what I need and what I like, it's now integrating back into life again. It's, what does my new supports look like? How do I have these new conversations now that I speak differently? I know better. Now I have to do better. That's like what recovery feels like. Going back into, like, learning new ways, new healthier ways for you. But sometimes we try to recover and redo what we know without learning what we need to do differently. And it's no cookie cutter way for, like, my healing and recovery won't look like your healing and recovery. But if I don't know what it is that I need to heal or where I'm coming from and what I need to do, it's going to be easy to rip my Band-Aid off if I haven't healed before I try to do life different, if that makes sense. Before I try to, when it goes back to like mother and daughter relationships, if I haven't healed and I'm just going back to Thanksgiving dinner with these people that ask me all the wrong questions, say all the wrong things, and I haven't got my tools, I don't know how to respond to that, it still hurts me in the same way. You gotta heal from that first.
Yes.
You gotta heal from that first. And so we have to separate what we want versus what we need when it comes to our relationships with our mothers. I think as a daughter, and I don't know, like I'm a black daughter, so I'm speaking, but the mother and daughter relationship, we're taught it's a sacred one, and this is someone that we're supposed to like look up to and mold us. And so when we don't have that, it's challenging and it makes us feel like something's wrong with us. There has to be a level of acceptance that says that's how my mother is, and let me figure out how I am, what is my identity outside of my abuse.
Absolutely.
And healing looks like bridging. Healing looks like mending. Healing looks like mending the broken parts of my identity. And the recovery looks like mending and bridging my identity with that identity, with their identity.
So
if that's my choice.
So in a sense, you're saying that with our new identity and our tools, we bring that to Thanksgiving dinner. We bring that to Christmas. We bring that to Easter or whatever, the family reunion, and we operate from that space. I like to say operate from your daily oasis of peace, because that's the place every day when you wake up, you have these tools already in your toolkit. So to help you, no matter what problem or who comes into your life that day, you have the ability to pull out a tool and exercise self-control. You have the ability to be proactive. You have the ability to react, but react in a way that is best for you and not exert all your energy because they said something that triggered you and made you angry. And I love times when I'm in spaces and things are said and I chuckled to myself. I said, "Ooh, if that was 2 years ago,
okay,
man," I said, "I handled that." And then sometimes I go home and I'm driving home. I said, "I handled that so well." And I remember one time going to a party and seeing an old friend who's now an ex-friend, and I remember speaking and sharing, and I think we even embraced. And when I left, I said, "I am so diplomatic. I'm amazing," because I had nothing. I enjoyed the event. I never thought about them again, and we were in the same spaces, the same circles, talking to the same people, but it didn't affect me at all. And so I understand what you're saying about that healing part. When you're coming just fresh out of surgery, you're not going to jump up. You just had knee surgery and start walking again. You have to go through that healing portion, right? And then after that physical therapy and all of that stuff that you're supposed to do that we don't do, you didn't even go to physical therapy, some of you. Then it's like that recovery part, because now you've had knee surgery. You have to learn how to walk again. And so that's that part of that mending, because now I have to walk again, and sometimes it pinched a little bit because I had knee surgery, and I don't like when it pinched, so now you kind of walking funny because you skipped physical therapy. But being able to mend that and operate from that place, because now that's your new space. And I know earlier we talked about denials, and we deny our situation or our relationship or what it is that we have with our moms for so long, and now you just react, and you telling her your rules that you want to be your boundaries, and she does not care. So,
because I mean, and really quick, like trying to get people to understand boundaries who don't have boundaries.
it has been a fight. Y'all hear me? I be on the podcast every week. No. People don't understand, and that's I've been talking about boundaries. I did it all last year. Now I'm going to continue talking about it and just continue to uncover, because what I'm doing is I'm having the conversations and I'm bringing professionals to the audience, because we need to uncover what we don't know. I learned about boundaries. I had boundaries before I developed the word or heard the word boundaries. I was doing it. I was putting them in place. I was protecting my peace. I just didn't have those words. I didn't say that. I didn't know that I was doing that. So I never told anybody, don't call my phone no more after I was being stalked. I didn't do that. No. I just didn't answer and changed my number and kept moving forward in my life. So I would say, I know we talked a lot about mothers, but as we wrap this up, what do we say to them? We talked a lot about daughters. What do we say to the mothers who are the baby boomers? And your daughter wants that relationship with you, and it has just been a struggle her whole life, because she doesn't necessarily know your life because you have not shared it with her. So what would you say to the mothers?
So this is after healing.
This is, yes.
Specifically.
Yes, specifically, because you can't talk to somebody that's unhealed. They're not going to hear you.
This is, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this is after the daughter has healed.
Oh, the daughter has healed. Okay.
We can only control us.
I'm editing that out.
We can only control ourselves. So this is after healing.
Yes, after the daughter has healed.
This is after the daughter has gone through her healing experience, and then she can go to mom and say, Mom, I felt, back to those I statements, I felt uncomfortable. I felt rejected. Whatever that is, blank, 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 whatever those emotions that mom has made you feel over the years, I felt this when this used to happen. I felt like I disappointed you when I would come to you with my accomplishments and you didn't acknowledge them. I felt disregarded when I would try to talk to you and you act like you were too busy to hear me. But I forgive you. I forgave you. And I had to do like my own work and resolve that anger. I'm not angry at you, but I just want us to move forward. And I want us to have a great relationship. I want us to be able to talk about good things, bad things, anything on my heart. I want to be able to come to you when I have something I want to talk to my mom about. And is that something that you think that you can do with me?
That's good. I think everybody should use those words. Replay this podcast over and over and over. Write it down so that you can use that statement with your mom, because you're going to have a little bit of hope, and you're going to have to step out on faith in order to get it done, because that was so good and it was simple. And so,
and also prepare yourself for
rejection.
Prepare yourself for the answer you want to hear, like the best case scenario and the worst case scenario, because you can only control your end and your healing journey. And this is still the mom as you know her.
Yes.
And so if she doesn't, she may still say, I didn't do that, or that never happened. okay, Mama, I hear you. I'm just letting you know how I feel. And figure out, like, maybe have a self-care day planned for after that conversation or something like that. But don't use that as an opportunity to try to convince mom of what her reality is. She may even not even remember, because sometimes people block out stuff that was traumatic for them to experience or even traumatic for them to do. And so don't use that as an opportunity to try to convince mom, like, no, this really did happen, and you just gonna keep lying to me, and going back and forth. It's not necessary. And don't reverse your healing for the sake of being agreed with.
Don't reverse your healing for the sake of being agreed with. That's another word. We got a lot of words in here.
Yeah, like you're enough. Your experience happened. You felt it. You healed from it, and you deserve the best, regardless of if mom is gonna be a willing participant or not.
That is awesome. I love it. Thank you. This has been a really good conversation. It definitely has helped me. I'm gonna go home and be better.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope that it has helped you make a decision that your healing is necessary and that you need to get connected with someone outside of yourself to get the process going. Yes, you can pray.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can have faith and hope. But you also have to do the work. You have to do the work. And I believe that you have to get connected to a source that can give you the support and the resources that you need to not only be sufficient, but to be proficient. We have to move from the place of just surviving. You and your mother and the relationship, you're literally surviving. Like it's like a strand of hair. It can break at any moment. And I know that you yearn to have a thriving relationship with your mother. And it's up to you. You have to make the first move. We hear a lot of times, put your big girl panties on. Go ahead, get your big girl drawers out. Put them on. You make the first move. Because one thing about healing, people can see it. They can feel it. When you walk into a room, they experience it and they can hear it. And the more you come into the room with your mother healed, the more she's going to experience healing. And her healing and her getting to the place of vulnerability may just come through you taking the first step to take care of you every single day. Getting connected, getting plugged into a therapist. Do like Dr. Portis said, I'm calling her Dr. Portis, Dr. Danielle Portis said, get connected. Write down find 10 people that you think you might want to have a conversation with and share and be vulnerable with, and then start reaching out to them. That's the work I'm talking about. So we don't get confused. What work I gotta do? You have to call. Google. Talking to your phone. Ask Alexa. I bet you she might give you 10 people right off the bat. I don't know. She might do it. But don't let the opportunity miss you, or don't keep skipping the woman in your mirror waiting on your mama to change when it's you who has to change by taking that step of faith so that you can heal. You have to uncover your denials so you can face your realities. And that's it. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Identity Woman Podcast. I am your host, Chantelle Branch. This is going to be an amazing year. And until next time.